Welcome to the deep dive. In a world that often feels like just a constant surge of information and new challenges popping up all the time, it's really easy to feel a little lost. We're all kind of trying to find clarity, right, to make sense of what's coming at us and, well, to navigate these complex issues that impact our daily lives.
It's a lot.
It is. But what if some of the most, potent answers to our modern complexities aren't new at all? What if they're actually rooted in wisdom that's, quietly endured for centuries, just waiting for us to rediscover its profound relevance?
That's a fascinating thought.
Today, we're embarking on a journey into the mind of a truly monumental figure from history, Voltaire. And you might be surprised at just how much a thinker from, the 18th century, how much he has to say about your life, your challenges, and your world right now.
Yeah, people often see him as just, a name in a history book.
Exactly. But he's not just a historical footnote. He's actually a surprisingly sharp, witty, and profoundly insightful guide for contemporary life. So get ready to uncover how a man who lived through an age of really radical change can still speak so directly to the complexities of the 21st century.
And our mission in this deep dive is, to extract the most important insights from sources like Voltaire's enduring wisdom for modern life. We want to illuminate not just what Voltaire believed, but really why those core ideas, ideas rooted in reason, individual freedom, and importantly, a healthy dose of skepticism, offer immense clarity and, frankly, courage for you today.
Courage, that's a good word for it.
Yeah. We're going to journey through his most impactful philosophies, and we'll try to connect them directly to your experiences and the broader modern landscape. It's about seeing these sort of timeless principles in action and understanding how they can genuinely inform your approach to, everything from public discourse to personal choices.
Absolutely. And look, there's truly no better place to start than with something that feels more contentious than ever.
Mm-hmm.
The power and the perils of speech. I mean, in our age of instant communication where a single thought can be broadcast to millions in seconds and reactions are often just so rapid and intense, the very idea of free expression is constantly being tested. It's a landscape where words can, build bridges or ignite brush fires. It feels very high stakes.
Indeed. And at the very foundation of this whole discussion, we find a statement famously attributed to Voltaire, one that has become almost an anthem for free expression. I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Such a powerful line.
It really is. And it isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a radical declaration, especially when you consider the context of Voltaire's own time, which was, frankly, quite oppressive.
Right. 18th century France wasn't exactly a free-for-all.
Not at all. Expressing unpopular or critical views often led to imprisonment, exile, or, worse. Voltaire himself faced censorship and persecution firsthand. His most famous philosophical work, Philosophical Letters, was actually banned and publicly burned by the French Parliament in 1734.
Burned. Wow.
Burned, because it dared to praise English liberties and religious tolerance over French absolutism. So he understood profoundly the immense power of ideas and the lengths established powers would go to suppress them.
So he wasn't just theorizing?
Not in the slightest. His willingness to defend the speech of others, even those he vehemently disagreed with, set this incredibly powerful precedent for protecting ideas, no matter how offensive or unpopular they might seem to the majority. It champions the very act of expression as fundamental, separate from the content itself.
Okay.
And what's particularly fascinating about his experience with the Philosophical Letters, the burning. The act of burning them didn't actually suppress his message. If anything, it amplified it.
Really? How so?
Well, it created an immediate public scandal. It drew even more attention to his forbidden ideas, proving his implicit point that censorship often backfires.
Yeah.
It can inadvertently give forbidden ideas this sort of dangerous allure they might not otherwise possess.
That makes sense. The forbidden fruit effect.
Exactly.
So that quote, that principle, it feels like it's directly challenging some of the biggest debates we're having right now. Take the whole phenomenon of cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
In a world where a single tweet or maybe a poorly worded comment, or even a past statement dug up from years ago, can cost someone their job, their reputation, their entire career sometimes. How might Voltaire's unwavering defense of speech stand up to this impulse? This urge to silence or ostracize individuals for their opinions, even when those opinions are deeply disliked or considered offensive by many.
Yeah.
It feels like we're increasingly quick to just shut down voices we don't like, rather than, engage with them on their merits.
That's precisely the tension Voltaire's principle forces us to confront. He would likely argue that while societal disapproval is, well, a natural consequence of offensive or harmful speech, and maybe even a necessary part of social pressure.
Sure, consequences are real.
Right. But the impulse to silence or economically ruin an individual for their words, that often grants disproportionate power to the accusers. It effectively creates a kind of secular inquisition almost.
That's a strong way to put it.
Well, he believed that bad ideas tend to wither under scrutiny, in the light of open debate, whereas suppression often drives them underground, makes them fester and gain this perverse appeal that they might not have had out in the open.
Okay, so airing it out is better, even if it's ugly.
That was his view. And the speed and intensity of social media backlash today just amplifies this challenge exponentially. A viral outrage can mobilize thousands instantly, creating this incredibly powerful collective pressure to condemn and silence.
Yeah, it's like a digital mob sometimes.
It can feel that way. Voltaire's principle urges us to resist that immediate, visceral urge to shut down dialogue just because we disagree, and instead to consider the broader implications. What does this mean for intellectual freedom, for the integrity of public discourse?
And it gets even more complex when we start talking about misinformation, which is just a massive challenge today, a huge one.
Absolutely huge.
We're bombarded with false claims, deliberate disinformation, outright conspiracy theories. So if we're defending everyone's right to speak, does that mean we just let misinformation run rampant? That feels like a very slow, maybe painstaking process in an age where falsehoods can spread globally in seconds.
Right.
Would Voltaire just say, let it all be debated and truth will win out eventually? Because eventually might be too late sometimes.
That's the tough question.
Yeah.
Voltaire's ideal was certainly an enlightened public, one capable of discerning truth through open discourse. He'd likely argue that suppressing misinformation, while maybe preventing some harm in the short term.
Which seems appealing.
Of course. But it also creates a dangerous precedent. It hands over the power of censorship to potentially biased authorities. Who decides what's misinformation?
Good point. Who gets to be the censor?
Exactly. He'd champion the idea that the best way to combat bad ideas or false information isn't by silencing them, but by countering them. With better ideas, with evidence, with a robust, rational argumentation.
So fight speech with more speech.
Essentially, yes. Imagine a conspiracy theory. Voltaire wouldn't advocate for banning discussion of it. Instead, he would urge the public to critically evaluate the evidence, or, more likely, the lack thereof.
Okay.
Expose the logical fallacies. Offer demonstrable facts that dismantle the falsehood. Now, this approach might feel slower, like you said, much slower than just hitting a delete button or deplatforming someone.
Definitely feels slower.
But in his view, it ultimately strengthens the public's ability to engage in critical thought. And that skill is essential for a healthy, informed society. It's about empowering the individual to critically evaluate information themselves, rather than just relying on some external authority to filter it for them.
So this isn't just about, abstract rights or polite disagreements over tea. This is about the very oxygen of a functioning society, isn't it?
I think that's a great way to put it.
Protecting diverse viewpoints, even the ones we strongly disagree with, even the ones that seem repellent, it's absolutely essential for fostering robust critical debate.
Yes.
And critical debate, that clash of ideas, is necessary for any kind of societal progress, right? Otherwise, you're just in an echo chamber, constantly reinforcing your existing biases.
Precisely. Voltaire understood that progress isn't made by everyone agreeing. It's made by the friction of differing ideas being tested against each other.
Fiction, yeah.
His principle acts as a crucial safeguard for minority opinions. For those ideas that might be unpopular or counterintuitive, maybe even perceived as fringe, but which are sometimes necessary for innovation or for correcting course.
Right, things that seem crazy now might be accepted later.
History is full of examples. It prevents the tyranny of the majority, where the loudest or most numerous voices can simply silence dissent. In democratic societies, the free exchange of ideas isn't some kind of luxury. It's paramount. It allows for accountability, for challenging norms, for the possibility of evolution.
Okay.
But this poses a fundamental question for us today. How do we actively protect this right in practice? Especially when the lines between, say, hate speech and disagreeable opinion become so blurred and, frankly, weaponized in public discourse.
Yeah, that line is really hard to draw sometimes.
It is. It requires a constant, vigilant commitment to the principle itself, even when upholding it feels deeply uncomfortable or goes against our immediate emotional reaction. It's a commitment to a process, really, not just hoping for a specific outcome.
That makes sense. A commitment to the process of free exchange. Okay. That radical commitment, allowing even disagreeable ideas to be voiced. That seems to naturally bring us to another pillar of Voltaire's philosophy, his relentless challenge to unchecked power.
Yes, absolutely connected.
After all, what good is the right to speak if the powerful can just ignore it or suppress it without consequence? And in an era where trust in institutions seems to be, well, eroding globally, his message here resonates really deeply.
Indeed. Voltaire lived through a time when the dominant institutions, primarily the absolute monarchy and the incredibly powerful Catholic Church, wielded immense, often unquestionable authority.
The old regime.
Exactly. And he was not afraid to directly criticize them for their abuses of power, their hypocrisy, their suppression of individual liberty and reason.
Sure.
He wasn't just a theorist sitting in an armchair.
No.
No, he was an active provocateur, consistently challenging dogma and fighting for justice in specific cases of judicial error. A really notable example is the Calas affair.
Ah, yes. Tell us about that.
Well, in 1761, Jean Calas, who was a Protestant, was tortured and executed in Toulouse. He was accused of murdering his son, who was found hanged. The official verdict, which was widely believed to be religiously motivated, assumed Calas had killed his son to stop him from converting to Catholicism.
Oh, wow. Based on assumption.
Largely. Voltaire was outraged by the injustice and the religious fanaticism behind it. He dedicated years to campaigning for Calas's rehabilitation. He gathered evidence, wrote pamphlets, mobilized public opinion across Europe.
He really threw himself into it.
He did. And his efforts eventually led to Calas's posthumous exoneration in 1765. It overturned a clear miscarriage of justice. This just demonstrates that questioning authority wasn't just an intellectual exercise for him. It was a necessary act of civic courage and relentless advocacy.
That's incredible. And that spirit, that questioning of authority, it couldn't be more relevant today, could it? We see this growing skepticism towards political leaders, governmental bodies, pretty much everywhere.
It seems to be a global trend.
Yeah, whether it's perceived policy failures or allegations of corruption or just a general lack of transparency, trust in government seems to have taken a real hit across many democracies. But it's not just governments, is it? We're also seeing major corporations facing intense scrutiny about their ethical practices, data privacy, their growing influence on everything from, what we buy to our political landscape.
Right. The power centers have shifted, but the need for vigilance remains.
Exactly. It echoes Voltaire's call for vigilance, demanding that power, no matter its form, be it state, church, or corporation, be held accountable.
You're right. This isn't just some fleeting trend. It feels like a profound shift in how citizens view power structures. And the digital age has also fundamentally changed the media landscape, hasn't it?
Completely.
It's led to this pervasive skepticism towards traditional news outlets and an even greater challenge in discerning credible information from the just myriad of new media sources.
It's overwhelming.
It is. Voltaire's approach encourages individuals to critically evaluate information, to question narratives, to seek out multiple perspectives, rather than just passively accepting what they're told by any single authority, whether that's a politician, a CEO, or a news anchor.
So be your own fact checker, essentially.
He would be the first to tell you that critical consumption of information is a civic duty, not just like a personal preference. It's about understanding that no institution, no matter how grand or established, is inherently infallible or beyond reproach. But, crucially, Voltaire wasn't advocating for just, tearing everything down.
Right, not anarchy.
No, not fostering blanket cynicism either. Rather, his skepticism was meant to be a proactive force, an engine for improvement.
Ah, okay. That's a crucial distinction. His skepticism wasn't passive. It was a demand for accountability.
Yes.
It was about fostering an informed and active citizenry, pushing people to think for themselves, to question, and ultimately to demand better. And that, in turn, directly pushes for greater accountability and transparency from powerful entities. Because when citizens actively question, it forces institutions to justify their actions, right? To be transparent with their processes and ultimately to serve the public good more effectively.
Exactly. Voltaire's healthy skepticism is really distinct from destructive cynicism. Yeah. Cynicism is passive. It assumes the worst and then disengages.
Throws up its hands.
Right. Voltaire's skepticism is proactive. It questions, it investigates, it demands improvement. When you question a government decision or a corporate policy or a media narrative, you're not just complaining. You're often pushing for greater transparency and better outcomes.
So it's constructive.
Ideally, yes. This critical posture is what inspires various forms of activism, from, grassroots movements challenging local policies to global efforts against corporate malfeasance. It also underpins the crucial role of whistleblowing,
Yes.
where individuals within organizations expose wrongdoing for the greater public benefit, often at great personal risk. These actions are direct manifestations of Voltaire's philosophy. They embolden individuals to challenge injustice, speak truth to power, and actively participate in shaping their society, rather than just passively observing its failings.
Okay.
It's about empowering you to demand more, and critically, to know why you are demanding it.
Okay.
It fosters an environment where a responsible citizen is an engaged and questioning citizen.
That concept of empowering the individual to think for themselves, but also crucially to respect same right in others, that's the perfect segue into Voltaire's deep commitment to tolerance.
Yes, another key pillar.
And in a world that often feels increasingly defined by division and polarization, from political ideologies to religious beliefs just pulling societies apart, the urgent need for tolerance has never been clearer. It feels paramount right now.
It really does. Voltaire's plea for tolerance is encapsulated in another really profound statement. Think for yourselves and let others enjoy the privilege to do so too.
Simple, but powerful.
Very. And it's two-pronged, as you noted earlier. It champions individual intellectual freedom, the imperative to use your own mind, form your own conclusions based on reason and evidence.
Right.
But it immediately pairs that with an equally powerful command, respecting that same freedom in others even when their conclusions diverge wildly from your own.
Even when you think they're completely wrong.
Especially then, perhaps. In his time, religious intolerance led to brutal wars, widespread persecution, horrific events like the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre centuries earlier, where thousands of Protestants were killed. He saw such fanaticism as a profound obstacle to human progress and harmony.
So for him, intolerance wasn't just disagreeable, it was dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. For him, tolerance wasn't merely about, grudging acceptance. It was about the fundamental right to hold one's own beliefs without fear of persecution or discrimination, and recognizing that suppressing dissent breeds violence and stagnation.
Okay, so what does this all mean when it feels like we're more divided than ever? We see these deep ideological religious divides across societies today, often fueled by social media echo chambers, and this pervasive us versus them mentality. It feels like tolerance is harder than ever.
It certainly feels challenging.
But Voltaire's call isn't just about passively accepting difference, is it? It sounds like it's more about actively fostering inclusive communities, creating spaces where diverse viewpoints can not only coexist, but can do so respectfully, even when those views are fundamentally opposed. How do we build bridges instead of walls when the temptation to just fortify our own positions is so strong?
You've hit on the core challenge there. Is tolerance just, enduring someone?
Yeah.
Putting up with them? Or is it an active embrace of diversity?
Right.
Voltaire leans toward the latter. He saw it as an active principle, necessary for a thriving society. He understood that genuine tolerance isn't about being indifferent to differing beliefs. It's about the conviction that people should not be persecuted for those beliefs, and that the flourishing of society depends on the free exchange of ideas from all corners.
So embracing difference benefits everyone.
That's the idea. In our polarized world, his philosophy provides a crucial roadmap. It reminds us that while we might strongly disagree with another person's politics or faith, our shared humanity and the principle of free thought necessitate that we extend them the privilege of holding and expressing those views, provided, of course, they don't incite violence.
That's a key distinction.
A very key distinction. This mindset directly contributes to reducing social, political, and even interpersonal conflict by essentially lowering the stakes of disagreement. When you truly respect the right to differ, arguments are less likely to escalate into personal attacks or societal schisms.
It encourages empathy too, maybe.
Absolutely. It encourages a deeper understanding and empathy for those with different backgrounds or beliefs, precisely because you are willing to engage with their perspective, even if you ultimately reject it. You have to understand it to engage with it respectfully.
And if we extend this to the bigger picture, it really underpins the whole idea of multiculturalism, doesn't it?
It does.
The richness and strength found in societies where difference is seen as a source of strength, not weakness. When you foster an environment of genuine tolerance, you unlock a wealth of perspectives, ideas, innovations that just couldn't thrive in a homogeneous or intolerant society.
Yes, it's about collective progress through diversity. Voltaire's vision isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about actively building stronger, more vibrant societies. Multiculturalism at its heart is the practical application of tolerance on a societal scale.
Okay.
When people feel safe to express their unique cultural, religious, or ideological identities without fear of discrimination, they contribute more fully to the collective good. It fosters a sense of belonging for everyone, which is foundational to social cohesion.
Which we seem to be lacking in places.
Indeed. Voltaire would argue that the diversity of thought and experience that tolerance allows is actually a wellspring of resilience and innovation. Think about it like a scientific problem. A team with diverse backgrounds and different ways of thinking is often more likely to find a novel solution than a homogeneous one.
Sure, different angles.
Exactly. Or consider a complex social issue. Hearing varied perspectives can lead to more comprehensive and equitable solutions. It's about cultivating communities where difference is not just endured, but celebrated as an enriching factor rather than a point of friction. This is vital for reducing conflict, cultivating that empathy we talked about, and building truly multicultural, resilient communities that can adapt and thrive in a complex global landscape.
That focus on reason, thought, and open dialogue naturally brings us to Voltaire's pivotal role in the Enlightenment. He was such a champion of logic over blind faith, and that legacy feels incredibly relevant as we grapple with this new kind of battle for truth today.
Indeed. Voltaire wasn't just part of the Enlightenment. He was really a quintessential figure, embodying its core ideals. He relentlessly promoted reason, empirical evidence, and critical inquiry above superstition, dogma, and unquestioning belief in authority.
He sounds tireless.
He was prolific. He was a fierce advocate for Newtonian empiricism, believing that truth was discovered through observable facts and logical deduction, much like scientific principles, rather than just inherited dogma or ancient texts. This foundation explains his relentless attacks on religious fanaticism and the baseless superstitions of his time. He often used meticulous logical deconstruction in his writing.
Taking things apart.
Yes, he saw reason as the torch that could eliminate the darkness of ignorance and prejudice, paving the way for human progress. His prolific writings, his relentless questioning, his commitment to intellectual freedom, these directly propelled the Enlightenment's impact across Europe and beyond. He dared individuals to use their own intellects to understand the world and make decisions, rather than just relying on inherited traditions or pronouncements from powerful institutions.
And it feels like we're constantly battling a tide of wild claims and unverified information today, doesn't it?
Constantly.
Whether it's the widespread proliferation of conspiracy theories in the digital age, from pervasive claims about secret societies controlling the world to unfounded medical cure-alls, or the ongoing fight against pseudoscience that gets presented as legitimate scientific breakthroughs. How does Voltaire's insistence on logic and evidence help us cut through all that noise? Because it's a lot of noise, and frankly, it can be incredibly seductive.
It can. And Voltaire wasn't just promoting abstract philosophical debates. He was advocating for the practical application of reason to everyday life, societal challenges. In the face of conspiracy theories, his emphasis on evidence provides a crucial framework.
How so?
He would urge you to ask, what is the verifiable proof? What are the logical fallacies at play here? Who benefits from pushing this narrative? He believed that truth, when subjected to rigorous, rational inquiry, would ultimately prevail over falsehoods.
So demand evidence.
Demand evidence. For instance, if someone claims a global cabal is secretly manipulating the weather, Voltaire would demand concrete, replicable evidence, not just anecdotal stories or appeals to emotion.
Right.
Similarly, in the fight against pseudoscience, his call for logic helps individuals discern legitimate scientific inquiry, which is based on repeatable experiments, peer-reviewed data, and importantly, a willingness to be disproven.
That's key, the willingness to be wrong.
Absolutely. Discern that from unsubstantiated claims designed to mislead or maybe just profit. He championed the scientific method implicitly as the most reliable path to knowledge, rejecting anything that couldn't withstand rational scrutiny. His legacy is a powerful reminder that critical thinking isn't just for academics. It's a fundamental skill for navigating a world saturated with information, some of it deeply misleading. It means understanding that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
So it sounds like Voltaire's advocacy for reason and evidence isn't just about winning arguments or, intellectual pursuits. It's really about equipping us with practical tools for navigating daily life, for making truly informed choices in every sphere, from deciding which health claims to trust, to how we engage in political discourse, maybe even how we approach educating ourselves and our children. It's about empowering rational problem solving in a very concrete way.
Precisely. His advocacy for reason means that logic and evidence aren't just academic concepts. They are indispensable tools for informed decision-making in every aspect of your life. When you approach a personal health choice, Voltaire would encourage you to look at the scientific consensus, the data from clinical trials, rather than just relying on anecdotal evidence or sensational claims from unqualified sources.
Do the homework.
Do the homework. When engaging in political discourse, he would urge you to evaluate policy proposals based on their likely outcomes, supported by empirical data and historical precedent, rather than purely on emotional appeals or partisan rhetoric.
Look past the slogans.
Yes. And in education, it means fostering critical inquiry in students, teaching them how to think, not just what to think, teaching them to question assumptions, including their own. By applying reason, we move away from impulse or dogma and towards more effective and sustainable solutions for complex problems. It's about empowering you to be an autonomous, well-reasoned individual, capable of making sound judgments and contributing meaningfully to a more rational society. It's really a call to intellectual self-reliance.
That deep commitment to reason, freedom, and exposing hypocrisy, it leads us perfectly into the final, but certainly not least, element of Voltaire's genius. His masterful use of satire.
Yes, Candide.
Exactly. We all appreciate a good laugh, but Voltaire showed us that humor can be more than just entertainment. It can be a sharp weapon for justice, a powerful tool for social commentary and critique.
Absolutely. Voltaire, particularly through his most famous work, Candide, truly perfected the art of satire. He used wit, irony, exaggerated scenarios, not just to amuse, but to expose the absurdities of his time.
Right. Candide is quite a ride.
It is. Through the naive optimism of its protagonist, Candide, who believes he lives in the best of all possible worlds, despite experiencing just unimaginable horrors, earthquakes, wars, religious persecution, torture. Voltaire brilliantly skewers the complacent philosophy of optimism that was popular then.
That Leibnizian optimism.
Exactly. He masterfully critiqued not just blind optimism, which he saw as a dangerous complacency in the face of suffering, but also the pervasive corruption of both the church and the state, the horrors of war, the hypocrisy of society. He didn't lecture. He made you laugh. And then often he made you think deeply about uncomfortable truths you might otherwise dismiss.
It's sneaky that way.
It is. His genius lay in making profound points through sharp wit, disarming his critics while delivering devastating critiques. He showed that sometimes a cutting joke can reveal a truth more effectively than a lengthy treatise.
And this method, using humor to critique power, it's something we see playing out so powerfully today, isn't it?
Oh, constantly.
Look at contemporary satire, whether it's late-night comedy shows ripping into political figures with biting monologues, or incisive political cartoons that distill complex scandals into a single image, or even the endless stream of internet memes that instantly crystallize complex issues or expose hypocrisy.
Memes is Voltairean critique. I like it.
Right. These aren't just for entertainment. They're potent tools for challenging injustice. How does humor manage to cut through the noise and challenge uncomfortable truths in ways that direct confrontation might not?
Well, satire isn't merely about comedy. It's often a vital coping mechanism and a powerful form of public discourse. Humor, especially satirical humor, can often disarm audiences. It makes them more open to engaging with uncomfortable truths or critically examining powerful systems in ways that direct, earnest confrontation might not achieve.
Lowers the defenses.
Exactly. When something is presented satirically, it bypasses some of our immediate defenses or prejudices. Think of how a political cartoon can simplify a complex policy failure down to its absurd essence, making it accessible and memorable. It can make the ridiculousness of a situation or the hypocrisy of a figure so glaringly obvious that it becomes undeniable, even to those who might otherwise be sympathetic to the target of the critique.
Yeah, you laugh and then you think, wait a minute.
Precisely. It helps people process complex, often overwhelming social and political issues by making them more accessible, less intimidating, and often more memorable. It takes the abstract and makes it bitingly concrete, even absurd. By inviting a laugh, satire subtly shifts perspective, allowing critique to land without immediately triggering defensiveness.
And it empowers critique, doesn't it? It gives people a way to push back against oppressive systems by revealing their absurdities or vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
When a system or a leader is made to look ridiculous, it kind of strips away their aura of invincibility. It often leads to a sense of shared understanding and maybe even collective action among those who feel similarly disempowered. It's like a way of saying, we see what you're doing and we're going to laugh at it and then maybe we're going to change it.
That's it, exactly.
The
Satire, in its essence, empowers critique. It allows individuals to speak truth to power, often without directly challenging the power structure in a way that would invite immediate suppression. By lampooning oppression or corruption or irrationality, satirists invite the audience to share in that moment of recognition. It creates a collective understanding of the absurdity or the injustice.
That shared joke can be powerful.
Incredibly powerful. It can lead to a sense of solidarity and, in many cases, inspire individuals to take action. It reveals the cracks in otherwise seemingly impenetrable or untouchable systems, making them appear less formidable and more susceptible to change. Voltaire understood that sometimes the sharpest weapon isn't a sword, but a well-placed joke that exposes a fundamental flaw. It cultivates a discerning public that isn't afraid to question, even with a smile or a laugh. And that is a truly powerful force for positive change. It reminds us that even in the face of daunting power, intellectual freedom and wit can be potent forms of resistance.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, it's really clear Voltaire's blend of wit and wisdom isn't just historical artifact. It feels like a living guide. A guide to navigating today's challenges with courage, clarity, and compassion.
Well put.
From his unwavering defense of free speech, even for those we disagree with, to his relentless questioning of authority in all its forms, to his passionate plea for tolerance in a divided world, and his insistence on reason in the face of falsehoods. Voltaire provides a pretty robust framework for engaged and thoughtful living. He genuinely seemed to believe in the power of the individual mind and the collective good that comes from its liberation.
And that leaves us with an important question for you, our listener. Given Voltaire's timeless principles, how might actively embracing just one of these, whether it's consciously questioning a source of information before accepting it, or genuinely defending a viewpoint you strongly disagree with simply to uphold the principle of free expression, or perhaps even finding a humorous, satirical way to highlight an injustice or hypocrisy you observe around you, how might doing that genuinely change your approach to a challenge you're facing right now?
That's a great prompt.
Because his wisdom isn't meant to be passively consumed. It's really meant to be applied.
A profound question to ponder, indeed. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the enduring wisdom of Voltaire. We really hope it's given you some new tools or maybe just a fresh perspective for navigating your world.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep engaging.
And remember, the deepest insights often come from the most unexpected places. Take care.